The news came like a bolt from the blue. Humanity had been invited to join the Celestial Concord, the most prestigious and ancient intergalactic federation in the known universe. The Concord, composed of the most advanced and influential species, was considered the pinnacle of civilization, a beacon of peace and prosperity. For centuries, countless species had vied for membership, but only a select few had ever been granted the honor. The invitation was heralded as a monumental achievement for Earth, a recognition of humanity's rapid technological advancements and growing influence in the galaxy. Celebrations erupted worldwide, with leaders and citizens alike hailing it as the dawn of a new era. But not everyone was so easily swayed. In the shadows of the celebration, Ambassador Adrienne West, a seasoned diplomat with a background in espionage, watched the unfolding events with a cautious eye. She had seen too many power plays, too many seemingly generous offers that were little more than traps in disguise. Something about the invitation didn't sit right with her, and she wasn't alone. In a secure room, deep within the United Earth Government's headquarters, West met with a small group of high-ranking officials, including President Nathaniel Royce and General Samuel Hayes. "This is a historic opportunity," President Royce began, his tone cautious. "But we all know that the Concord's ruling species have a history of protecting their power at all costs. Why now? Why invite us at this moment?" "It's a test," West said, her voice steady and calm. "They see us as a potential threat to their dominance. This invitation isn't a gesture of goodwill. It's a way to gauge our strength, to find weaknesses they can exploit." General Hayes nodded in agreement. "We've had reports of Concord fleets maneuvering near our borders, conducting exercises. They're watching us, sizing us up." President Royce frowned, leaning forward. "Then what do you propose, Ambassador?" West's eyes gleamed with a mixture of purpose and calculation. "We accept the invitation, but we do so on our terms. We'll play their game, but we won't fall into their trap. If they want to test us, we'll show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The grand halls of the Concord's capital, Valeros, were a sight to behold. Towers of shimmering crystal rose high into the sky, connected by bridges of light. The air hummed with energy, and the streets were filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. For the unprepared, it was a place of awe and wonder, designed to impress and intimidate in equal measure. Ambassador West, however, was neither awed nor intimidated. As she stepped off the transport and onto the pristine landing platform, she surveyed her surroundings with the practiced eye of a veteran diplomat and spy. Her entourage, a carefully selected team of diplomats, military advisors, and intelligence officers, followed close behind. Waiting to greet them was High Chancellor Thalor, the leader of the Varanthi, the most powerful species in the Concord and the de facto rulers of the Federation. Thalor was tall and imposing, with a regal bearing and a gaze that could chill even the most hardened negotiator. Beside him stood a delegation of Concord representatives, each representing one of the core species that held sway within the Federation. "Ambassador West," Thalor said, his voice smooth and cultured, "welcome to Valeros. It is an honor to finally meet the representatives of humanity." "The honor is ours, High Chancellor," West replied, her tone respectful but measured. "We are grateful for the invitation and look forward to contributing to the Concord's noble mission." Thalor smiled, though there was a hint of something predatory in his expression. "I'm sure you will find the proceedings enlightening. The path to membership is not easy, but I have no doubt that you and your people will rise to the challenge." As they made their way through the grand corridors of the Concord's Central Council building, West remained vigilant. She knew that every word, every gesture, was being scrutinized. The Concord's ruling species were masters of manipulation, and they would be watching for any sign of weakness. The official proceedings began the next day. The council chamber was a vast, circular hall, with representatives from every member species seated in tiers around a central platform. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as the human delegation took their place. Thalor stood at the center of the chamber, his voice echoing through the hall as he addressed the assembly. "Esteemed members of the Concord, we gather here today to consider the admission of a new species into our esteemed Federation. The humans of Earth have demonstrated remarkable progress in a short span of time, and now they seek to join us. He turned to West, his gaze piercing. But membership in the Concord is not granted lightly. It must be earned. The humans must prove their worth, and to that end, they will face a series of trials designed to test their capabilities. West met his gaze without flinching. "We are ready to face whatever challenges you present, High Chancellor." Thalor nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Very well. Let the trials begin." The first trial was a test of technology, designed to measure humanity's scientific prowess and innovation. The Concord provided a series of complex problems, from energy generation to advanced quantum computing, each one more difficult than the last, but West and her team were prepared. They had anticipated that the Concord would try to use technology as a means to undermine humanity's achievements. The delegation included some of Earth's brightest minds, who had been briefed on possible scenarios. The humans not only solved the problems, but did so in ways that surprised and impressed even the most skeptical Concord representatives. The second trial was a test of diplomacy, a challenge that West had been anticipating. She was placed in a simulated negotiation with representatives from rival factions within the Concord, each with conflicting interests and demands. The goal was to reach a consensus that would satisfy all parties, an almost impossible task designed to expose her weaknesses as a negotiator. But West was no ordinary diplomat. She had spent years in the shadows of international politics, mastering the art of persuasion and manipulation. She played the factions against each other, using their own ambitions and insecurities to her advantage. By the end of the simulation, she had not only reached a consensus, but had also secured favorable terms for humanity. The Concord Council watched in silence as West navigated the treacherous waters of intergalactic diplomacy with ease. Thalor, however, remained impassive, his expression giving nothing away. The final trial was the most dangerous, a test of military strategy. The Concord provided a scenario in which humanity was pitted against a vastly superior force, with the objective of defending a critical outpost. The simulation was designed to be unwinnable, a demonstration of the Concord's military superiority, and a reminder of humanity's place in the galaxy. West and her military advisors studied the scenario carefully. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that the Concord had underestimated humanity's ingenuity. The human strategy was unconventional, relying on guerrilla tactics, deception, and psychological warfare. Instead of facing the enemy head-on, they used the environment to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes that whittled down the opposing forces. They also employed cyber warfare, hacking into the enemy's systems to sow confusion and disarray. The Concord's simulated forces were thrown into chaos, unable to predict the humans' next move. By the time the dust settled, the outpost remained standing, and the enemy was in full retreat. The council chamber was silent as the results were displayed. The humans had done the impossible. They had won. After the trials, the Concord Council convened in a closed session to deliberate on humanity's performance. West and her team waited in their quarters, the tension palpable. Hours passed before West was summoned to the council chamber. She entered to find the representatives seated in their tiers, their expressions inscrutable. Thalor stood at the center, his gaze fixed on her. "Ambassador West," he began, his voice measured, "the Concord has reviewed your performance in the trials, and we have reached a decision." West remained calm, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew the trials were only part of the test. The real challenge was yet to come. "You and your team have shown remarkable skill and ingenuity," Thalor continued, "but there is one more matter to address." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing detailed reports on humanity's recent activities in the galaxy. Military deployments, diplomatic negotiations, and intelligence operations. It was a dossier compiled with meticulous detail, evidence that the Concord had been closely monitoring humanity for some time. Thalor's expression hardened. "The Concord is concerned that humanity's rapid rise poses a threat to the stability of the Federation. We have reason to believe that your species harbors ambitions that extend beyond mere membership in the Concord." West listened carefully, understanding the subtext. This was the real test, the moment where the Concord would attempt to humiliate and weaken humanity by exposing their ambitions and painting them as aggressors. But West was ready. "With all due respect, High Chancellor," she said, her voice calm and confident, "humanity has no desire to disrupt the peace and stability of the Concord. We seek only to contribute to the greater good of the galaxy, just as every member species here does." She took a step forward, her gaze sweeping across the Council. "However, we are not naive. We understand that power in the galaxy is not given. It is earned. The Concord has seen humanity's capabilities, but what you may not fully understand is our resolve. We have faced countless challenges throughout our history, and we have always emerged stronger." Thaler's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent. West continued, her tone growing firmer. "If the Concord views us as a threat, it is because you see the potential in us. We do not seek to dominate, but neither will we be dominated. We are here to stand as equals, to share in the responsibilities and challenges of the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But let me be clear. If any species in this Federation believes they can undermine or control us, they will find that humanity is not so easily subdued." The chamber was silent, the tension thick. The representatives exchanged glances, some impressed, others wary. Thaler's expression remained unreadable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Thaler spoke. "The Concord will deliberate further on this matter. You will be informed of our decision shortly." West nodded, knowing that she had done all she could. Now it was a waiting game. The next day, West received a message summoning her to a private meeting with Thaler. She arrived at his chambers, flanked by two of her advisors. The room was opulent, filled with artifacts from across the galaxy, each one a symbol of the Varanthi's long and storied history. Thaler was seated at a large desk, his expression as inscrutable as ever. He gestured for West to sit, dismissing her advisors with a wave of his hand. They hesitated but complied, leaving the two of them alone. For a long moment, Thaler said nothing, simply studying her. West met his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. "Ambassador," he finally said, his voice calm but with an edge to it, "you are not like the other diplomats we have dealt with. You understand the nuances of power, the subtle dance that governs relations between species." West inclined her head slightly. "I've had to learn quickly." "Indeed," Thaler replied, leaning back in his chair. "The Concord is a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and unspoken agreements. It is not merely a federation. It is a stage on which the drama of the galaxy plays out." He steepled his fingers, his gaze never leaving hers. "You have navigated the trials with skill, and you have demonstrated humanity's strength. But strength alone is not enough. There is one more matter that we must resolve before your admission can be considered." West's eyes narrowed slightly. "And what might that be?" Thaler smiled, a thin, calculating smile. "The Varanthi have long held a dominant position within the Concord, but that position is not unchallenged. There are factions within the Federation that would see us weakened, that would seek to exploit our vulnerabilities." He paused, letting the implications hang in the air. "We could use an ally, someone who understands the subtleties of power, who can help us maintain the balance within the Concord." West's mind raced. This was the real power play. Thaler was offering an alliance, a partnership that would ensure the Varanthi's continued dominance, but at a price. The question was whether humanity was willing to pay that price. "And what would this alliance entail?" she asked, her tone carefully neutral. Thaler leaned forward, his voice low. "Support us in key votes, assist us in countering the influence of certain factions, and in return the Varanthi will ensure that humanity's place in the Concord is secure. Together, we can shape the future of the Federation." It was a tempting offer, but West knew better than to make decisions lightly. She considered her options, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. "An alliance with the Varanthi would certainly be advantageous," she said slowly. "But humanity values its independence. We cannot be seen as merely an extension of another species' will." Thaler's eyes flickered with something akin to admiration. "Of course. Independence is essential, and we would not seek to undermine it. This would be a partnership of equals, with both parties benefiting from the arrangement. West nodded thoughtfully. I will need to discuss this with my superiors, but I believe we can reach an understanding. Thaler smiled, clearly pleased. I look forward to our future collaboration, Ambassador. Back in her quarters, West immediately contacted President Royce and General Hayes, briefing them on the conversation with Thaler. The implications were clear. The Varanthi were offering an alliance, but it came with strings attached. The question was whether humanity could afford to reject it, or if they could turn it to their advantage. We could use this to our benefit, General Hayes suggested. If we align with the Varanthi, we gain their protection and influence. But we don't have to be loyal to them forever. Once we've established ourselves within the conquered, we can reevaluate our position. President Royce nodded, considering the proposal. It's a dangerous game, but it could work. We'd need to be careful not to become too entangled in their schemes. West listened, her mind working through the possibilities. The Varanthi were powerful, but they were not invincible. If humanity could use the alliance to strengthen its position within the Concord, they could eventually challenge the Varanthi's dominance from within. We accept the alliance, West said finally, her voice decisive. But we do so on our terms. We'll use this opportunity to build our own network of allies within the Concord, and when the time is right, we'll ensure that humanity is not just a member of the Federation, but a leader. President Royce and General Hayes exchanged glances, then nodded in agreement. The decision was made. The alliance with the Varanthi was formalized in a discreet ceremony, attended only by key representatives from both species. To the outside galaxy, it appeared as though humanity had successfully navigated the trials and secured their place in the conquered. But behind the scenes, a more complex game was being played. With the Varanthi's support, humanity quickly established itself within the Federation. West and her team worked tirelessly, forging alliances with other species, subtly undermining the factions that opposed them. The Varanthi believed they had found a useful pawn in humanity, but they underestimated the ambition and resolve of their new allies. Over the years, humanity's influence grew. They became known as shrewd diplomats, formidable strategists, and relentless defenders of their interests. The Varanthi began to realize that their alliance with humanity was not as one-sided as they had hoped, but by then it was too late to reverse course. In time, the balance of power within the Concord shifted. The Varanthi remained powerful, but they were no longer unchallenged. Humanity had carved out its own place within the Federation, not as mere members, but as leaders and power brokers. And at the center of it all was Ambassador Adrienne West, the woman who had turned a trap into an opportunity, who had outmaneuvered some of the most cunning minds in the galaxy to secure humanity's future. As she stood in the council chamber, watching the latest vote that would further solidify humanity's influence, West allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The path had been fraught with danger, but they had emerged victorious. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They were not just another species seeking a place at the table. They were a force to be reckoned with, a power that would shape the future of the Concord for generations to come. And so, under the leadership of those who understood the true nature of power, humanity's star continued to rise, ushering in a new era in the galaxy, an era where Earth's influence was felt in every corner of the cosmos. The celestial Concord, once a symbol of ancient power and tradition, was now a stage upon which humanity played a leading role, guiding the galaxy toward a future of their own design.